Welcome to another real-time strategy video. In this video we will be listing the top 5 missing Tomb Kings units. The roster for the upcoming DLC has been released, and with it comes some noticeable but understandable omissions. Some that would be great fun on the battlefield. There are currently 8 missing from what I can see, so stay watching until the end for honourable mentions of the other 3 that do not make it into this list. With that said, I hope you enjoy the video and remember to subscribe for more weekly content. If you like learning about the lore and history of the Warhammer world, or just enjoy watching someone play Total War, then look no further and make my day by hitting subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel. Also, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments and which of these 5 units would be your most wanted addition to the game. Number 5. The Bone Thrower. A Tomb King's Bone Thrower is a device fashioned from bones and designed to hurl osseous missiles upon the enemy. As with the larger artillery pieces, the undead build smaller bolt-throwing machines, and for the same reasons their chief material is bone. These machines are based upon those once used by the living armies of the kings and long since crumbled to dust. It is essentially a big crossbow made of bone, a very big crossbow indeed. The missiles it fires are as long as spears and can skewer a whole line of troops. Number 4. The Necrolith Colossus, or the Bone Giant. Towering over the Tomb King's skeletal legions, mighty statues of venerated heroes and ancient kings stride to battle. These stone giants are the Necrolith Colossi, and none can stand against them. A Necrolith Colossus is not the animated skeleton of a single creature, but a massive warrior built from the bones of mighty desert creatures, bound together with wood and metal by the magic of the Lich Priests. In ancient times, before the rise of Settra and the founding of the mortuary cult, many were the legends told of the time when the gods walked the earth, and how they were served by a race of giants, beings of immense stature that walked the land and smiting all who stood in their path. According to half-forgotten inscriptions, these giant warriors were left by Nehekaran gods to stand watch over the realms, immortal sentinels who would guard their realms against evil demons. So it is thought that the most ancient of the Necrolith Colossi were created by the gods themselves. However, the ancient Nehekarans constructed countless more, hewing their forms from mighty pillars of rock and carving them directly into the faces of cliffs and pyramids. Every necropolis in Nehekara is watched over by at least one of these imposing figures. Outside the ancient cities in Nehekara, bone giants stand as motionless sentinels, guarding important valley entrances and gateways from rampaging monsters and enemy warbands from aeons at a time. Such power is instilled in the bone giants that they do not need incantations of lich priests to prompt them into wakefulness, and will react immediately to the presence of unwelcome strangers, striding relentlessly towards them, smashing them into the sand with their heavy weapons. When the lich priests built the tombs of the kings of Khemric, they realised how much more effective it would be to employ larger and stronger creatures to do all the heavy lifting. Upon the orders of Settra, the priests of Nehekara sought ways to bring forth these mighty servants again to serve the new kings of the land. Far and wide they searched, speaking to many skilled in the arts of magic and famous for their artisanship. Some travelled to the mountains to speak with the dwarves in their great halls, while others ventured north and west to converse with a few elven folk who still dwell on this side of the ocean. In time they returned and began their magical experiments. Over many years they learned how to bind the winds of magic into inanimate bone, metal and wood. Through spells written on scrolls and sacred glyphs carved into their creations, they gave them a vestige of life. These creatures moved and were possessed of a cruel intellect, but had no will of their own, and were wholly subject to the will of their masters. Greatest of all their creations were the Necrolith Colossi. Once the tombs were complete, any giants that remained would be cast aside into the brimming charnel pits. When Nagash cast his terrible spell of awakening, the giants crawled faithfully back from their pits, bizarre amalgams of bone and sinew with sufficient awareness to do only the most rudimentary tasks. Made to resemble immense heroes of old, Necrolith Colossi stand noble and proud. Their forms are covered in skulls, bones and mortuary ornamentation. Indeed, such was Nehekara's obsession with death and immortality that some colossi have even been carved to resemble giant skeletons. Necrolith colossi were armed with traditional weapons and armour on a mighty scale. Breastplates, vambraces, and sometimes great crested helmets were hammered onto the stone bodies of these constructs, each lavishly decorated and engraved. It is a rare thing to create a new bone giant, and most of those that are at times seen marching to battle alongside the Tomb King's armies in existence for thousands of years. If one of the constructs is destroyed, its sacred pieces are gathered up and used to recreate it. As the knowledge and skill of the priesthood grew, they turned their talents towards binding the souls of Nehekara's foremost warriors into these vast statues, for who could face such a creation in battle? The incantations of summoning required were long and arduous, demanding the combined power of a score of lich priests. Such is the magic instilled into Necrolith colossi, that only once spirits are bound within their mighty frames, they will never again need the incantations of lich priests to prompt them into wakefulness. Necrolith colossi will react immediately to the presence of unwelcome strangers and move to strike them down, stirring from their vigil. They shake loose the sand and dust that has settled on their immense forms and stride relentlessly towards the intruders. A Necrolith colossi is armed with traditional weapons and armour, only on a massive scale, carrying vast bows or giant swords that stand taller than a troll. A Necrolith colossus is simply a powerful foe, and its weapons can carve through an armoured knight and his barded steed in a single stroke. In battle, Necrolith colossi are terrifying to behold. These towering warriors stride the battlefield, spreading terror and death. Few are the foes that can face these unnatural monsters, for they do not feel pain. They do not know fatigue or fear. The desert itself trembles at their passing, the impacts of their heavy footfalls sounding a mighty drumbeat that heralds impending doom. They are nigh impossible to stop, crushing foes beneath their feet and sending dead and broken bodies flying in all directions. Able to feed on the escaping life forces of those they slay, the bone giants can carve through enemy regiments with a single devastating charge. Number 3. Amuts. Amuts are massive but bizarre creatures, an amalgam of several iconic beasts of Khemri. The head of a crocodile up front, the mane and torso of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus lead to an almost comical appearance. They are covered in fur ranging from sandy coloured to dark brown, with shorter fur on their back and a long mane behind its head down to the shoulders. Its large snout and fearsome face are layered in reptilian scales. The wickedly curved claws of the creature's forepaws pale in comparison to the danger of its mighty jaws. Amuts are beastly but cunning creatures that consume souls in an attempt to satisfy their insatiable hungers. They are scavengers from the realm of Usurian, the underworld. There they roam the depths in search for the tasty morsels of the ones found unworthy and damned by the god of the underworld, murderers, cowards, thieves, and the like. Although their powers pale in comparison with the terrible dread of bristles, they are still to be feared. Amuts never tire, and once one notices a creature that it considers suitable prey, it's unrelenting, stalking its prey for hundreds of miles if need be, before running it down. The only way to truly escape an Amut once it selects you as its quarry is to confront and defeat the beast. After Nagash's great ritual, Amuts and all other beastly denizens of the underworld were found wanting, as the flow of souls started to diminish first and then slowly trickled to a halt. Starved of their most favourite prey and unable to perish in the realm of Usurian, the Amuts grew restless, wandering about the various levels of the underworld and fighting each in a futile attempt to sate their bottomless hunger, only to materialise again after some time, starting the cycle anew. It was the high priest Henut of Numas who first wrote down the words and ritual to summon forth the ravenous creatures and to bind them to his will. The ritual itself is an arduous and long one, requiring the blood of someone outcast and shunned by society. One might think that a person like this is very hard to get by in the land of the dead, but to the Nehekarans, anyone who disturbs the peace of their burial complexes and trespasses into their lands is considered a criminal. As such, the Lich Priests are provided with a steady stream of suitable subjects, since the looters and tomb robbers seem to be never-ending. Once summoned, Amuts are bound to the will of the Lich Priest. So far they join the armies of the Tomb Kings when they march to war, prowling ahead or on the flanks looking for the souls of the evil and wicked, tasty morsels they have been denied for so long. Number 2. Basteti. The ancient Nehekarian kings often kept great cats as pets, using them to protect their homes or aid them when hunting. Upon the death of the king, his favoured companions were entombed with him, guarding their master in death as they did in life. As all felines were considered divinely favoured, they were carefully preserved, with as much effort going into their mummification as that of their human lords. This included carefully preparing bands of linen inscribed with hieroglyphs of praise for Baths, goddess of grace, love and cats. These inscriptions preserve not only the body of those great felines, but also their agility and speed. Now they strike even quicker in undeath than they did in life. They are deadly combatants, retaining some of their animal cunning and regal bearing. Guardian undead similar to the Basteti have also been found amongst the ancient barrows of the Old World, particularly in the Border Princes. Scholars still debate whether these barrows are evidence of the Nehekarian colony in the Old World, or if the primitive inhabitants of the region were merely imitating the practices of the great civilization to the south. These undead felines are reservoirs of necromantic power, causing other undead near them to become more dangerous, even raising nearby corpses as skeletons. Necromancers sometimes seek out Basteti in order to strip them of their powers or use them as servants, but to date, only the undead lich priests of Nehekara have managed to secure their loyalty. Number 1. The Khemric Titan. Beneath the shifting and endless sands of Nehekara dwell age-old secrets and timeless horrors to freeze the soul of any who dare disturb their slumber, and many are the legends and whispered tales that are gathered about them. One of those, of the most fabled and feared, is that of the gigantic scarabs and carrion beetles said to dwell beneath the sands. While there are those who scoff at stories of scarabs the size of fortress keeps raising from wrathful sandstorms against all who intrude upon the ancient lands of the tomb kings of Khemric, there are too few beyond the lands of the dead who know that the terrible truth lies behind them. Known to the lore masters of Tilia and the Empire as Khemric Titans, these giant arcane constructs of stone and onyx, bejeweled and enamelled with the wealth and glory of a bygone age, tower above even the dreaded Necrosphinx in size, animated by the mightiest incantations of the fallen glory of the south. It is unknown how many were fashioned in ancient days, and how many even of those have survived, but it is known that they were set to slumber as guardians far away from the funeral armies of their kings of old, set to stand watch over sites of terrible evil and the haunts of foul monsters from the dawning of the world, and there are few forces of creatures able to contest them in battle. The root of their great power stems from the fact that they are no mere beast of animate stone, for contained within a Khemric Titan is the resting place of a long-dead hero of Khemric, and something, more rarely, an entire dynasty of warrior kin, fallen sand-traps of the great kings who were heroes while they drew breath, sworn to guard the borders of their lord's domains in death as they were in life. The funerary incantations of these shrines of eternities are lodestones for the winds of magic, gathering and storing their tremendous power there over the years. And when the winds of magic blow, they flare into life, and unbidden by any lich priest, the Khemric Titan walks. And that's the video. I hope you enjoyed. The honourable mentions are Tomb Swarms, Tomb Barracks of Usurian, and Tomb Heralds. Remember to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed and learned something new. I'll see you next time.